I see some in Sampras, particularly on the Sampras backhand side. But as we've seen with Sampras, he's such a great competitor that I'm sure the majority of people are picking Sampras.
Yes, I have to go along with that because it's been a very emotional time for Sampras. It's been an emotional 18 months for him with the illness and sadly a month or so ago the death of his friend and coach Tim Gullickson. But he's used everything that Tim Gullickson has taught him to great effect, and now he's with Paul Annacone. You see the results at Roland Garros for him. He certainly is a good player. I personally think, Fru, that Sampras is probably the most complete tennis player. He may not be the most complete tennis player on clay, but if you take all the surfaces into account, as we see Kafelnikov's Roland Garros results, I really do think that he's the most complete player, and he needs this title. He probably needs it in some respects more than Kafelnikov needs it. Kafelnikov never having won a Grand Slam before, but Sampras has won everything else, and he's never done that well here, and he wants to be considered one of the greatest. Look at that draw that he had there. Unbelievably tough draw, and he's played some five-setters to get to where he is. And Draper, that helped a lot when he could beat Draper in straight sets, and Draper's a fine young clay court player from Australia. Kafelnikov has had a pretty easy time getting through to the semi-finals. Hasn't necessarily had the toughest of draws. We don't know if that'll be a plus or a minus for him. Just losing the one set to Krajcek. Through a lot of people have felt that Kafelnikov, his weakness is between his ears. He sometimes loses his way in a match, especially if he loses that first set. So would you think the first set is vital?
Well, I do. I think the first set and a bit is very important. I think if Sampras can get a set and a break up on Kafelnikov, we might see the tail between his legs. We might see the towel being thrown on the court. I hope that doesn't happen because, like you, I think Kafelnikov's an almighty talent. And I just think he has to try and consider this as perhaps the only semi-final he's ever going to reach, in a way that's a bit demeaning, and no player in his right mind perhaps tells himself. Umpire George Diaz will be in control of this semi-final. Also, I see, catering to the heat, wisely, wearing a cap, and no doubt will be taking in plenty of liquid. And I just hope that Kafelnikov tells himself it might be the last time he gets here, because who knows, injury, anything can take a player out. Because if you enter a semi-final with that sort of approach, then I believe that even if you're down, you give of your all. And there's no doubt that, as you were saying, and as the draw pointed out there, Sampras has had a horrific passage. In fact, Sampras has played 213 games coming into the semi-final, and Kafelnikov a mere 148. So they're over 60 games difference between the two played. And admittedly, Sampras has had 2 days off. But still, I think Kafelnikov's got to tell himself, much as Sampras has done in the matches in which he's been down, that if it goes the distance, he, Kafelnikov, should be the fresher. And I think he's got to remember that, even if he goes a set and a break down.
Kafelnikov coming across to have a little drink of water, just to try to get the cotton wool out of his mouth and throat. Sampras continuing with a couple more serves here. The court a lot quicker. Everything's favouring the big server, isn't it?
Sampras a gagné le tirage au sort, il a choisi de servir.
Yes, Bob, you were asking about the court surface and how fast it is. It's been very apparent that it's been really pretty quick all week. And of course, as it's got hotter and hotter, so in fact it's got faster and faster. The balls this tournament are quite a bit faster. They're meant even to be a little smaller. So they're not playing with tennis balls out here. They're using golf balls. And that really, of course, helps the big server. It helps Sampras. But on the other hand, Kafelnikov's got power. It'll help him too. And even though he's got less power than Sampras, of course, these hot conditions will give him more power than he normally has.
Well, the second semi-final about to begin. Pete Sampras to begin the serve. good beginning.
0-15.
Fortunately, they've only played two points. Kafelnikov hasn't had a chance to hit the ball in anger yet. Paul Annacone on the right and Todd Snyder on the left. Annacone the coach, Snyder the trainer.
Looks a good advert for Wrigley's chewing gum.
Honda.
That's where I think, although he missed it, where Kafelnikov has a decided advantage over Sampras is on the double-handed return. He can really step in early and take the ball, hit it hard. Sampras can't.
Jeu, Sampras.
Well, it's a very keen Pete Sampras wins his opening service game.
This wall covers a lot of ground. It goes on forever. Nothing gets past. And when I play, I am the wall. I'm Michael Chang, and this is my plan.
Kafelnikov coming around to serve his first service game.
Well, this is what I was saying. The beauty of Kafelnikov is that he can take that ball really early. Look at that, about midriff in height. Sampras generally will have to play the ball a lot later.
That looked to me like a pretty big serve. It came out at 172. It's his first ace.
45.
You see the flags flying there. Just not very strong, the breeze, but it's with Kafelnikov.
40-30.
Although in the stadium, as Roland Garros is, the way it's designed, the wind will get in here and it'll swirl around a little bit. So down on the court, not necessarily the Kafelnikov is serving with the wind.
Jeu, Kafelnikov. Un jeu partout.
Delana Mulcahy, that's the ever constant companion, of course, of Pete Sampras, and a real inspiration to him. I think just about the only girlfriend that Sampras has ever had. A loyal man, we can see that with the feeling with which he treats any discussion of Tim Gullickson.
15-0.
May have noticed Sampras just before he hit that serve, he looked up at the sun. He's looking into it, and he just wanted to check exactly where it was, knowing full well where he wants to throw the ball. Make sure that he won't be looking directly into the sun as he hits the serve.
Premier service.
Yes, I always find that ironic, Bob, because you look up to gauge where to throw the ball, but by saying doing, of course, you're looking at the sun.
Base number 2.
30-0.
Perhaps the first semi-final was over too quickly, but I'm very, very surprised that the stadium is not absolutely packed out for this match. President's box is probably a quarter full, so no doubt they're having lunch.
Kafelnikov has the ability on the forehand side as well to take the ball very early. So even this effortless Sampras serve that comes through, as this one did at 175 kilometers an hour, he can really drill back almost before Sampras has got to the service line.
Sampras.
Well, Sampras is looking good. Takes a 2-1 lead in the first set. Kafelnikov to serve, first point of the fourth game. Just like Sampras in the last game, looking directly into the sun.
15-0.
Well, I like his style in caps anyway.
Oh, he must have seen you play for him.
Filet, premier service.
Must have a damn good memory as well.
Well, there's no doubt that, as in the Courier match, Sampras is going to be playing a lot of backhands. The one slightly consoling factor for Sampras is that Kafelnikov's not hitting with a great deal of length when he's hitting there. And that firstly means Sampras got more time to play it. Secondly, also means that occasionally he might run around.
15.
That's Kafelnikov's first double fault.
Yes, he served 2 only in his quarterfinal match against Krajcek. 2 in 4 sets. Well, he's getting a check, but I thought he threw it up quite low, and I thought it was just missed the line. I think Sampras is conceding, but it touched a bit of line.
First foot fault of the match. Well, they've been saying for years that Kafelnikov has a fine forehand.
45.
You see a good example of it there. Sampras doesn't have a bad forehand either.
Yes, I think where Kafelnikov is so good is with his footwork. I think he's got some of the best footwork in tennis. Of course, very often people who hit the ball with 2 hands have got to move their feet well.
40-30.
He's not a great defensive lobber, Kafelnikov, because he tends to play the forehand when he chooses to play the defensive shot without a great deal of slice. It's a very flat forehand, therefore awfully difficult to control that.
Jeu, Kafelnikov.
And that's his second ace. 2-all. First set. It's early yet, Fru. Any surprises with how the two players are playing?
Well, what I'm liking about it already is the fact that Kafelnikov really has got his head down and seems to be charging, but of course that's likely to be the case until he's really threatened. I suppose the real test will be if he's break point down or if he loses a break, whether he can hold his head up high. Terrific reaction here by Sampras. That was almost past him, and I was convinced that was going out. And I think this is a very important shot too. Kafelnikov's two-hander down the line. Although he'll be threatening to play most of them cross-court to the Sampras backhand, it's very important, I think, for him to be able to hit quite a few of those shots, because it is, after all, the quickest backhand, the shortest journey.
Sampras' third ace. I didn't think that was very far out, certainly worth a question, and the umpire just confirmed the call. I don't know if he got a bad bounce or whether he just wasn't watching the ball closely enough.
I think part of the what is involved here too is I think he's really trying to hit with a great deal of power, perhaps even more power than is necessary, Kafelnikov.
You mean trying to match the power of Sampras or beat the power of Sampras?
Exactly. And whereas I think we saw there just a glided return, I don't think he really meant it, but it wasn't hit with any power at all, and yet it foxed Sampras.
I thought it was a little bit wide. I'm not sure what Jorge Diaz said, whether it was wide or long. Oh dear.
Well, having said that, Kafelnikov was perhaps trying to hit the ball too hard. On this occasion, Sampras certainly beaten by power, because looking to emulate Kafelnikov just a little late on the shot.
Avantage Sampras.
But it is going to be a problem for Kafelnikov to break the Sampras serve, but it's always a problem, no matter who you are and no matter what surface you're playing on. When you play a Pete Sampras, has a fine serve, good disguise, backs his serve up so well with pretty good volleys. Always.
More tennis. Super.
Well, it's 33 degrees on the center court at Roland Garros. Just a slight breeze.
Prenez place
See the
rapidement, s'il vous
flags
plaît.
fluttering at the far end. Sampras not quite ready to play. Changing his racket, in fact. Sampras leads 3-2 in the first set.
Un peu de silence, s'il vous plaît. Les joueurs sont prêts. Merci.
Still a number of people coming into the stadium. That's to be expected. I say it's to be expected, but it's still an annoying habit that people do have when they come to tennis, of coming late, and then having to sit down always takes a little bit longer than one would normally think it would take. Some players don't really notice the spectators too much, and then others can notice someone sitting in the cheap seats blink.
Well, I wondered at first about playing the drop shot. He didn't seem to really get under it too well. Easier on the backhand side to do it. And Sampras, I thought it hit this behind him. He had. That's a remarkable half volley by Kafelnikov. Kafelnikov really was looking like losing the point, and Sampras must have fancied his chances. Sampras all prepared with a cap to match the clothing, but I noticed this man, it's obviously a last thought, because the one he's wearing is in fact a Roland Garros. They have their own brand name here. Certainly doesn't match his Diadora clothing. He won't be paid for that.
Kafelnikov.
Maybe he is.
Yes, I suppose maybe if you get to the semi-final, no matter what you wear out there, you tend to get a bit of a bonus for. Where was the money in our day, Bob?
In somebody else's pocket. Certainly wasn't in ours. I tell people often that first time I won Wimbledon, doubles admittedly, 1962, with the great Australian doubles player Fred Stolle. Well, we got £5 each in a voucher.
15-0.
Yes, £5, which you had to exchange for tennis clothing, I think it was. You couldn't buy anything but tennis clothing with it, or tennis equipment. And it looks as if this powerful serve of Sampras's has broken a string in the Kafelnikov racket. Kafelnikov, who has his strung not quite as tight as Sampras. Sampras very tightly strung, 33, 35 kilograms, whereas Kafelnikov's down under the 30 kilos. The players will have gone a bit tighter during the tournament with the hotter and hotter conditions applying. The hotter it is, the tighter the racket you want. I was watching some of the juniors outside, and I felt some of them were playing with rackets far too loosely strung. Balls were flying all over the place.
Prue, why would you tighten the strings when it's hotter and faster?
15.
Well, so that if you have a looser racket, the ball tends to fly, so that when there's more heat, you don't really need the pace, you need more control, and the tighter racket strings give you more control. Borg it was, and Muster, of course, who have and had rackets very, very tightly strung.
Oh, superb second serve there from Sampras. Right in the corner, forcing a terribly weak one-handed backhand return from Kafelnikov.
Well, not particularly difficult backhand volley, that of Sampras. I think it's very important for Kafelnikov to retain two hands on the racket as often as he can. because I think that keeps the pressure up and gets him in the habit really of making strong returns. They don't have to be powerful, they just need to be controlled.
Oh dear.
40-30.
You can't understand what he was thinking there, Kafelnikov. He went for an exceedingly powerfully struck deep shot, missing the baseline by about 3 meters. That's his second double fault.
It's like this habit the players have of cleaning the line, but like hens scratching in the sand.
Avantage,
I wonder if he's not feeling a little bit of pressure, and pressure from the returner serve capabilities of his opponent. Also, I'm not sure that he's completely and utterly satisfied with the racket that he's using. Break point.
Second service.
Yes, the first break point of the match.
Well, you most certainly have to make the return when you have a break point, especially when you have a second serve. Got to get it back into play and get it in as well as you possibly can. That's a terrible return of serve. Well, having said that, it was a fine second serve from Sampras. But he is struggling with his first serves. He's down to 55%. Another backhand flies off the racket of Kafelnikov. Could he be just late in turning the wrist? Maybe his racket is too tightly strung.
He is a little late, certainly, and he's lifting the upper part of his body a lot as he plays it. I think that's in an attempt to get a lot of power.
Égalité.
Which is pretty unusual for him, but as you said, Bob, that one serve of Sampras is certainly very deep, and Kafelnikov, of course, likes to take a very early ball. But also, as you've implied, he's one of the returners that Sampras really fears. Of course, he first encountered him in that long 5-setter at the Australian Open.
Avantage, Sampras.
Certainly Kafelnikov is not frightened of the Sampras serve. He's not standing as far back as so many of the other players do.
Jeu Sampras.
With his fourth ace, Sampras holds serves and leads 4-3.
Sampras mène par 4-3.
Both players have had their minute sitting in the shade of an umbrella provided by all persons. They come out having to play tennis out in the sun again. 33 degrees, Henri Leconte on the right, Guillermo Villas on the left. Kafelnikov serving with the new balls into the breeze, which seems to be picking up a little bit.
0-15.
Throws in his second double fault.
Yes, and after the last game of chances and the missed backhands, this could be worrying here. This is often where Sampras jumps onto his opponent.
Unsure forehand volley. He hit it with a great deal of authority, and I'm not even sure if the backhand would have gone in.
No, I thought Sampras' shot was going out. I think it was a last-minute decision by Kafelnikov. And of course, Sampras, had he known that Kafelnikov was going to play it, would have got to the next shot.
He talks so much about so many things about Sampras's game. They don't really give a lot of compliments to his backhand. Do you think it's a weakness, or just that he's overshadowed by everything else?
I think it's a real weakness, and in fact, although you say that, I've heard many people say he's got a terrific backhand, but I've never seen it that way. To me, it's always been a real weakness.
As a young man, he changed from two hands to one because he wanted to be the best tennis player in the world, and he didn't think he could be there with a two-handed backhand. But every time he hits a backhand, he's close enough to have hit it with two hands. So he's changed from two hands to one, yet he hasn't gotten himself away, because you really have to be away a little bit further from the ball with a one-hander than you would a two. It's a beauty.
Well, I think this has been the first big test, because at least this is a test that got into a rally, and Sampras really looking to drill that one. Probably would like to have hit it a little deeper. But Kafelnikov rose to the test, rose to the occasion. First time he's so volleyed Kafelnikov. It's not something he likes to do. He tells us that he's not really a serve volleyer. Why would he do it there? Perhaps just as an element of surprise. But again, a very flat forehand volley and stretch, not a lot of power.
Avantage, Kafelnikov.
Well, Sampras has certainly got a rein in that forehand of his. He's missed far many, almost as if he can't quite gauge the tension of his racket and is overhitting. And this is saddening him, there's no doubt about that. It's normally such a creamy shot.
Jeu, Kafelnikov. Quatre jeux partout.
4-all first set. 31 minutes. Another shooter off the line. Amazing the difference with the bounce of the ball when it hits the line compared to when it lands either in or out of the court. He certainly seems to suddenly like the tension of the racket with the last 2 points. That was a great point from Sampras.
Yes, I think part of Kafelnikov's problem is there. We saw him just use the one-handed slice. Is that he's a little unsure of whether to come in. It's LeConte, I think, testing the hat of his wife. Presidential box, no doubt, with those hats.
Well, he's going to have a look. Kafelnikov pointing, saying it was out, but Sampras not believing him at this stage.
Yes, Diaz, umpire Diaz gestured immediately that it was just out, just a whisker out. Didn't feel like getting off his chair.
It's too hot to move.
Exactly. I'm always amazed the umpires don't have tennis shoes on, even if they even if they aren't white. They do so much walking around the court now, checking marks. You'd think they'd have on better shoes, more suited shoes.
forehand cleaned the line.
40-30.
Yes, this perhaps a suggestion here that he has reined it in just about. He hit it just as hard, but finally he's getting the distance, having overhit by so much earlier. Constantly at the change of ends, testing the tension of his rackets.
Jeu, simple. Sampras mène par 5-4.
Oh, still no service break. Sampras is 5-4 up in the first set.